That's what the indigenous have to do in their day-to-day. And if you actually watch how they go to carry something, it's not the fireman's carry where you're trying to challenge yourself. They're trying to make it as efficient, as easy as possible.
So I went from a 942-pound squat. Kelly helped me correct some issues in my back, not necessarily back pain, but just technique and form. I would round over a lot in my squat, and Kelly was just like, hey, let's have you. I was overarching. I would have a huge bow in my back every time I would squat, and that was leading me to round over actually when I went to do my lift. Anyway, long story short, he shows me some movement patterns. I practice these movement patterns. I get my hips to open up a little bit, and a 942-pound squat, which was already pretty good at the time, turns into a 1,080 squat, which is the most I ever lifted. Mm-hmm. I recognized then that your movement pattern is tremendously crucial, and Kelly was a guy that would whack me, like literally hit me, punch me in the stomach if I wasn't standing the right way and things like that. And I noticed that you guys have a lot of that implementation of the things that you guys are doing. What is wrong with our society? Like what is some things for people to kind of hone in on? Why are people standing so wrong? Like, how did we get to this point?
Yeah, that's
it's a
broad question.
It's a combination of sedentary lifestyle. So you didn't see this stuff in the 50s. And then these cool recliners started to come out, and then the cars got a little bit more comfy, and then, you know, and then in the 70s, Arnold and all those guys started, and you know, they just fed this pattern we call GOATA, this mathematical pattern. And it's just our society now, the beds, the shoes, the patterns, and the training create this sort of epic failure at the joint level.
You know, talking about the shoes, I think that's a great visual for people. So, you know, you stuff your feet into a shoe that doesn't allow your toe to spread, and our feet should look a little bit more like our hands, but our feet have really gotten mangled. Our toes are kind of overlapped, and people's toes are all jacked up. But if you think about like sitting and some of these other things that we're doing, we're kind of stuffing ourselves in a position every single day that we're not supposed to be in. And if we are supposed to be in it, it would be just momentarily, just for maybe a few minutes a day. It wouldn't be something that we would really just sit in this fixed position for long periods of time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, those sitting marathons that we all have to go through, whether it's in a car or in a desk at work or at school, we would want to be going through that sitting marathon on the ground in some of those ancient shapes that are across culture all over the world, whether you look at crisscross applesauce, seiza, samurai, cowboy posture. These are shapes that kids get into instinctively that they're not taught how to do. And it's, you know, the kid in Cleveland or a kid in Bangladesh are both getting into these shapes. So it's not that sitting or rest is bad for us. It's actually good for us. It's the opposite side of movement, and it's much needed to keep this complex moving system tuned up. So where we should be resting is on the ground. That takes us now and takes us from the chair, which is that front chain dominant. Picture yourself sitting in a recliner, folks, and your hips are underneath your ribs. And it takes that, and now it moves the hip behind the rib. So you stay in a back chain dominant posture as you're getting that parasympathetic system to turn on. You look down at the bottom, at the foot, at the platform, like we've talked about these last couple of days, how crucial it is that the way that foot starts is going to allow the ball and sockets up the column to behave correctly. But now you look at the way most shoes are designed, super narrow toe box, which immediately makes you kind of want to start to flare your foot, sort of like a flip-flop.
You start to point your toes out.
You start to point your toes out. That starts to take that ankle and move it down and in, take that shin down and in, like we've shown in the patterns where now you're away from the security. You're not setting that good bow. You're not letting that ankle get into that back outside corner of the socket. Everybody's foot's starting to get flare. Their ankle's starting to tuck down and in. Big picture concept is it's compression, right? The hips are being pushed underneath the ribs, are being pushed forward. The ball and socket columns are being suffocated, and the platform at the bottom is just giving out. The arch is collapsing now. So the majority of humans you'll see that have chosen to wear a bad shoe, we don't know, we were putting shoes since we're kids, or they start to sit for a long time, starting in first, second grade, and then all of a sudden these little aches and pains start to add up. Like Gilly said, from the 50s till now, the search for comfort has only been heightened, right? The iPads are, better than ever, the phone. So everything's kind of feeding this front chain dominant behavior. If we know that, we can make smarter choices by going from, a sitting desk to a floor desk, changing your shoe option to give you a little more toe space, let the feet start to get corrected, and let the the body get back to its decompressed state.
Yeah, I got a good analogy for that, which is if you buy a car, it comes with tires. If you buy a trailer, it comes with tires. And there's manufacturers, specific amount of pounds you put in that tire. When you look at GOATA, it's the tires on that number. When you look at WOTA, it's a flat tire.
What's GOATA and WOTA?
GOATA's the greatest of all time actions, and WOTA's the worst of all time actions. So it's it's just something that we created to describe it. It's easy. It's easy to teach. We all know what the GOAT is, and so it was easy to kind of feed off of that. One of the other things too, when me and Gilly was like building this whole thing out and stuff, and he came to me with these concepts and stuff. My wife was pregnant at the time, and we ended up having 2 kids like back to back, and I got to see the natural. Like we was able to go back to nature. My wife would call me on her way to school and be like, their shoes are already off. They don't want to wear the shoes. They didn't want to have them on because it's almost like this instinctive like knowledge that they have to protect themselves. It's
How
innate.
many kids you see at like going around town? They got one shoe on.
Yeah, right.
They're always pulling them off.
It's always been right there in front of us. And what we did is we just started to pay homage to nature. We looked at the babies, the indigenous, and they got a piece of leather strapped on their foot. And think about putting your hand in some kind of device that would keep the hand closed off all day and then take it off in the evening and see how you would feel. It's going to start affecting the chain. You're going to, especially if you had to load your hand all day.
I find it really interesting, like what we, like in modern day, like what we search for and what we're seeking to help solve a problem is like kind of the opposite of what we need. Like you're thinking, I'm in pain. This hurts. My back hurts. I need to sit down. I need to rest. I need to, and that sometimes can be beneficial, but for how long? Do you have to sit down every 10 minutes because your back hurts? Well, that means that something's off. That means that something's wrong, right?
It's how we rest is the problem, because what we go to for comfort has become the actual source of the problem.
It codes the wrong movement.
Yeah,
like
That'll
taking
code the bad
diabetic
behavior.
medication or something like that. It might be better to just
be on a diet.
be on a plan. Yeah, that's going to assist with that. Yeah.
Mark, the original name of the company was called Primal Wisdom Theory. It was a complete marketing failure, but the he's laughing.
You guys are hilarious, all 3 of you together. Like you're all different minds.
The pain that you are describing is ancient wisdom. So the wisdom is there in the form of pain, the language of kinesthetics. And it's telling you that you have been misbehaving by being in the front chain. So the answer is to get in the back chain. But nobody has the information because nobody did it the way we did it. We took the people who were anti-fragile and endurance durable, and we took that, which is like best practices rule, and we reverse engineered it. And what we found was lay crawling super babies, indigenous people, super athletes like Michael Jordan, and 105-year-olds like Hurricane Julia Hawkins at the track and field world championships.
What do you mean by wisdom being connected to pain?
You want to take that?
I mean, I think like you just said, it's something letting you know that something's up. Like I know from my own experience, and when I finally met these guys, all the things that I was trying to fix in my body from tracking back to like freshman year in high school, like I'd been throwing my back out since I was young, and none of that ever made sense to me, but it was always something that I was searching for an answer. And that's what really brings GOATA to the table, is that this is a man who had his back, give out on him, and that there led him on a journey to go find that wisdom, to go deepen his knowledge on, well, what's causing this? To be honest, it's not something that the Karubo have to deal with, or the Yanomami in the Amazon, or the Hadza. If you never have back pain, you never have to go seek it out. So now we're in an interesting predicament here where we're in this, comfort cushioned world, and we have this great communication across the globe, but we're more wrecked than ever because we haven't been able to still take what keeps the Karubo and the Yanomami safe, and we haven't been able to bring that into our movement diet. You're someone who's seeing what the indigenous do from a diet standpoint, and you're bringing it into the real world. We're just doing that from a movement standpoint.
Let me add to that. Because I've been doing this for 23 years, this recode. I never used to know that pain that I was having while I was sleeping in my back and my hips and my knees was the wisdom. So nobody ever told me that. If you're in pain when you're sleeping, or if you have to wake up because you're in pain at a joint, that's a problem.
Power Project family, how's it going? Now on this podcast, Mark, Andrew, and I, we talk about fasting a lot. We talk about the ketogenic diet and a lot of different types of diets, but Bubs Naturals has a product. They have the collagen protein, which is amazing. They have these apple cider vinegar gummies, which are like crack, but they have
They are.
they have these MCT oil powder packets that I've never used to do this, but in the morning I'll wake up and I'll put it in coffee, and the smoothness, number one, in terms of the mixing is amazing, but the consistency of my energy through the day because of the MCT oil powder is peak. Andrew, how's your experience with it?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. It's like the best way to start the day. You're satiated, you're energized, and you're just ready to crush the day. So if you guys want to get in on this MCT oil powder, head over to bubsnaturals.com and at checkout, enter promo code Power Project to save 20% off your entire order. Again, Bubs Naturals, promo code Power Project to save 20% off. Links to them down in the description as well as the podcast show notes.
That's the ancient language. Linguistics came last. It's always been see, feel, during the evolutionary chain, but timeline. But I mean, my answer to that is the answers are there for you. Your ancestors paid the ultimate price by giving you this wisdom in the form of kinesthetic feelings, and we ignore that.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like almost like a self-diagnosis that you can feel. So if go back to the car analogy, if your front end if you start to vibrate the car a little bit, well, you automatically know that you got to go get your car aligned, right? Or you're going to destroy the car. If we start having a little back pain, we just going to ignore it or sit there. Like we never really listen to the body. And then in the athletic world, you got to push through that stuff, or you labeled as a wuss or something like that. So it's like, that fight. What we talked about earlier when you said, and I thought that was great, was it's work. Hard work, that description shouldn't even be in there. It's kind of like I always say, like, why are we even talking injury prevention? Like, we're not designed to be injured. We created injury in our bodies, unless a truck hits you or something like that. But, listening to the body is what he means by that, it's like it's telling you all the time. That's the wisdom. Most people label wisdom as going to school and learning, and then you go through all of these experiences and things like that, and you become a wise person. Well, the human body's been in existence forever. That see-feel's been in existence forever. So when we stop ignoring that for aesthetic value, for man, I got these shoes, I gotta wear Jordans, and and I know better too. I still do it, but it's like, that's the things that he's talking about. That's the wisdom that we ignore. And we value other things.
Mark, you were, giving us a lot of information about how you manage your days, and you talked about these long walks that you're doing. And, me, Bam, and we got a whole hiking crew. We do about 100 to 200 hiking miles. Sometimes it's loop trails, sometimes it's day trails, and then we walk about 700 miles a year. But the wisdom is this: if you do a 10-mile walk and you wake up the next day and one foot is a little more sore than the other, that's telling you that you're doing something on one side a little bit too much. To make sense a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. What I want to point out too that I think is great that you guys have done, and I saw some video inside your gym where you kind of have like a wall of shame. You got the GOATA crew, all the worst movements, people that are not practicing some of the things that you guys have learned. But I love the fact that I know a lot of your information comes from you guys gathering information over the years, observing other people, observing what some coaches do well, going through your own trial and error with your own body. But then on top of that, which I find the most compelling, is that you studied some of the greatest athletes. And I think that's a really interesting thing, because a lot of people will say, hey, never mind what the greatest people of all time have done because they're special. Yep. And I like what you were saying about your injuries when you were young, how you always thought there was something wrong with that. I've always felt the same way too. And coaches are like, no, that's normal. When you're pushing the envelope, that's what happens. You're going to redline. That's what you always hear. And it's like, well, not everybody redlines. And then the only answer we ever get from anybody is like, well, these guys are genetically superior.
Yes.
That's all you ever hear. I love the fact that you guys have broken it down. You've looked at the greatest of all time. You look at the way these guys move, and you're like, well, there's a lot of commonality between these people. We see people do this with business, and they talk about how to be successful. And you're like, here's the 14 rules, here's the things. Someone like Jordan Peterson writes a book, and he's got the 12 rules of life. And we see it time and time again where people have broken down things from our past and said, hey, here's a recipe. This is going to work great. They sell millions of books. They're successful too. A lot of people that read the books, those people are successful too. But for some reason in athletics, you don't really see this for some reason. I don't know why. I'm kind of baffled by it.
What you see is what we call a storyboard. So it is that 12-point evaluation, right? So the 12-point eval is our virtual book that we wrote. So that storyboard is taking you through the pre-movement fundamentals, which are your columns, your back chain dominance, and your inside ankle bone high suppleness, right? So you have to have those 3 pre-movements first. When we lay it out for an athlete or we lay it out for general pop, everybody sees that board, right? So we take them through these phases, and then we show them their video, which takes them through the phases too. Yeah, you can see it up on the board right now. So what you're seeing right there is the columns, right? So straight feet, inside ankle bone high, level ankles, level knees, level hips, level shoulders, everything stacks properly, and gravity can't destroy the body. Just in your stance, if those gyros that we talked about in the gym are constantly decompressed and being loaded properly.
And what's that?
Right?
From the ankle, it's ankle, knee, hip,
it's
shoulder.
Correct. Now the knees are hinged, so the knees allowed to go outside into the squat and things like that. You want that ankle and that hip to kind of work together, and then
there's your collinear line.
Yeah, that's the box that he was talking about out on the turf. What you saw with the baby is the baby travels in that column, so they'll stay inside of the mat as they move through space. The super athletes were always in the columns, and It's all right there for you.
Some of the people you're looking at are like Ed Reed, Jordan. You're studying the movement patterns of babies.
It's the same as the baby, yeah.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that like intuitively, we just are moving the right way, but then we're probably, unprogramming some of that later on in life from technology, from the way that we sit, the way that we rest, right? Is that where some of this is coming from?
The way that we train.
Think of second grade, right? You're in second grade, and now you got a box shoe on you. You're sitting in a desk, and now you're sitting at that desk for 8 hours a day.
So it's almost like someone wrote a recipe of like how to unravel the
Correct.
natural.
And Rick, why don't you talk about
pattern.
reductionist theory and how it relates to all this? Because that's really what's just come down to, which is we got a foot guy now. We got a hip guy. We got a spine guy.
Right. Like what GOATA's trying to do, and you guys kept hitting on this yesterday, like, wow, this is a system. And everybody right now in the fitness industry or in the corrective industry, the physical therapy industry, everybody's in a trench. I just look at the foot, I just look at the knee, I just look at the hip. What those global laws, cadaver science, right? So what you're looking at when you see these different modalities is you're looking at the wrong blueprint. That's what GOATA did different, is that to find that innate blueprint, we have to look at certain people, right? We have to look at those that are most durable. The problem that has set into the training industry is that the blueprint that they started with is really a cadaver science blueprint. Like we talked about yesterday, you got a body on a table, you have somebody else taking that foot, and now they're creating what they are calling ranges of motion or movement. Oh, this is dorsiflexion. Yeah, this is plantar. You got your pronation, your supination.
But there's nothing attached to that because there's no brain involved. There's
and then
no
once
pain
you turn on the tape,
open chain.
Once you turn on the tape, that doesn't happen. There is no supination because nothing in the organic world could move one plane, one range. You're not just moving on the sagittal half a range. You're not just moving on the frontal half a range. You're putting those 3 planes together to create that curve, to create that spiral. That's the blueprint of forward movement. So we had to get a new map to show the world so that people could see that these ranges that they think they're training, the hip don't flex and extend. It's really a hurricane energy wave, just like you would see in all of nature. So the big piece here is getting everybody out of the trench, making it more of a system sort of macro viewpoint, 40,000 view, looking in on it and seeing how it sort of fractals or mirrors to everything else in nature. And you see that there is an innate blueprint going back to how the baby moves, going back to the embryological development. And then what Gilly did with not just looking at Michael Jordan, not just looking at Usain Bolt, but Ida Keeling and Hurricane Hawkins are just as important to the study as Michael Jordan. The crawling baby is just as important as Michael Jordan, and everybody kind of reflects back around it. And we need that whole population to get a better view of what is the right way, what is the wrong way. We can't do that without those groups.
And also these people that are in these tribes and stuff, these people that have these ancestral movements where they're not really inside much. They're outside a lot. And what you showed the other day on the floor in our conference room was amazing. You were like, this is kind of what it would look like, a few hundred years ago. Someone would be sitting this way, and you're sitting crisscross applesauce, and then you moved forward, and then you were resting on your knees with your butt kind of on your hamstrings and calves. And then you were like, and then I would get up, and then I would go do something.
Yep.
And you might pick up something heavy here and there, but it wouldn't be that heavy, and it wouldn't be that often.
Not in repetition.
Yeah, you might drag some stuff. Maybe you drag water. Maybe you killed a buffalo, and you and some other tribal people.
We always say, like, I look at the inputs kind of like walk, jog, run, walk, jog, run, walk, jog, run, walk, jog, run, lift, walk, jog, run, walk, jog. So you're a forward moving species. The food's out there. I got to go from point A to point B. And then when I'm chilling, I'm resting on the ground. And that's really it. That's what the indigenous have to do in their day to day. And if you actually watch how they go to carry something, it's not the fireman's carry where you're trying to challenge yourself. They're trying to make it as efficient, as easy as possible. You'll see them bring the tump line in. You'll see them transport some way, putting it on the body so that they can stay back chain dominant and move that thing with the forward motion, the forward gear that we call GOATA. So the indigenous are in that blueprint. They're in that input math constantly. They're always resting on the ground. The Karubo or the Yanomami, a truly barefoot tribe, they never even put a shoe on the foot. It doesn't even know what it is. They don't know what a chair is. And then the day-to-day is going to be based in forward movement. If I have to pick something up, I pick something up. But I always challenge people with, how heavy is something that you're actually picking up in your day-to-day? Like the weight room's built for you to lift heavy weight, but in your day-to-day, you're probably not picking up anything that's anywhere close to like 30 to 50 pounds on the regular. And you're not going to pick it up and then slam it back down, pick it up and then slam it back down. You're just going to pick it up and then move about your day.
Yeah, on a construction site even, like things are usually like less than like 50 pounds. They're usually...
A machine does the rest.
Yeah.
It's very rare that something's over 100 pounds. And if it is over 100 pounds, then something else moves it like a machine.
Yep.
I love what you're saying there, and are there some things, because like modern technology is like here,
It ain't
and
going
it's
away.
hard to figure out exactly what to do with it. I would urge parents to push that shit back as much as you can, because once your kid has it, there's kind of no turning back from there. So whatever age you can push some of that stuff back to, that would be great. Do you guys have any recommendations for if a kid is on a tablet, if they are doing something like that? Because what I'm thinking, because what I'm thinking in my head is like, I don't, well, everyone kind of says this about themselves. I don't feel like I'm too bad with my phone, but I'm probably too bad with my phone. So I'll just say this. If you guys just told me, hey, the only way you can use your phone is if you're sitting down crisscross applesauce, I would be on my phone a lot less, and I'd probably be more mobile if I felt like using the phone, because I'd be getting up and down off the ground. I'd have to burn some calories.
Yes.
I'd have to spend some time in a position that my body doesn't really love.
That is what we're saying, Mark.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
And you watch indigenous people like I did for 1,000 hours or so, and you watch the little kids whittling wood and stuff, it's on the ground. That's like an iPad. They're sitting down there messing with wood for hours at a time. But they're not going rogue.
That's your Halo.
Correct.
You're playing Halo now. You're playing, Fortnite. Just
they're not
play it
trying
on
to
the
walk.
ground. Yeah.
They're not trying to walk whittling wood either. Like they walk and we hear.
Right.
Hey, little mama, let me whisper in your ear. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel because we continue to bring you peak content on this channel. Obviously, you guys are here. You guys have watched the whole video. So like, comment, subscribe. All right? See you later.